There it is. Hey guys, this is Trish with Hip Homeschool Moms, and I am here with Rachael Carman. Rachael is from Apologia. She's how do you like to describe yourself, Rachael? Author? How do you describe yourself?
Mom, just like the other moms that are out there. I enjoy being a mom. I'm married to the president of Apologia. I have a pretty average life, crazy life like the rest of you.
Very good. But I wasn't sure, how much sometimes you are really shy about being married to Davis. So anyway. And then we have Leanne. Leanne's over here from Hip Homeschool Moms, and she'll be the quiet one tonight. She's always the quiet one, so she'll giggle every once in a while. So Leanne, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I am with Hip Homeschool Moms. I am the mom of one, just a sweet little only boy who is, I don't know, I think he's playing in the other room right now. So he's almost 9, so, and he's just the love of my life, and, well, behind my husband, I guess I should say. But, so yeah, that's me.
And I'm Trish, and I have 3 boys, and one's in high school, one's in middle school, and one's in elementary, so I have a little bit of a crazy life. And married and homeschool mom. That's me. So I have been sick all day. If anybody tracks us on Facebook, they know that Trisha's been sick and that I wasn't supposed to be here. So if I am slow or not fast on the uptake, y'all just, give me lots of grace tonight, okay? So, Rachael, I actually went back and listened to an interview we did with you actually about 6 months ago, and you are so funny. I actually was disappointed that I wasn't going to be here, so God made it happen that I could be here, right?
Yay, I'm so glad you got to join us tonight. I always enjoy doing this with Hip Homeschool Moms.
We do. We have so much fun. So I totally had a blast at Real Refreshment with you.
Good.
A couple of weeks ago, and one of the things they did there was this one word. So, and Rachael was just going to run for a few minutes with one word. So I'm going to give her a couple. She has not been prepped for this. Are you ready, Rachael?
I guess I am. Here we go, Trish.
Homeschool.
Homeschool is something I never thought I wanted to do. It's been the blessing of my life. I'm so grateful that God called me to it. I really wish other mothers would step out and take a chance and trust God and see what He would do through it. There's so many opportunities to grow and to learn. I think it's the adventure of a lifetime. It's a great journey. I look forward to seeing how my kids navigate it. We talk about it often. Today we haven't done a whole lot of homeschooling. Quite honestly, once it starts to warm up, I want to be outside with all things bright and beautiful, and I don't want to be inside. So we do a lot of homeschool on the porch this time of year. How was that?
And that's wonderful. So last time I talked to you, you said something that was so funny, and I hope it's okay to repeat a little bit. You said you did not see yourself as a homeschool mom. You said that you met these folks that were down the street. Can you tell that story? Because that is so funny.
Well, it was hilarious. I had just given birth to our first son, and the wonderful woman across the street brought us dinner, which I think is great. And it was delicious, and Davis took the pan back, and when he got back home, I said, "So, how are the neighbors?" We just moved in, hadn't met them. And he said, "Okay," in a really strange way. And I said, "That was an odd answer." And he goes, "Well, they seem normal enough, but they homeschool their kids." And I was like, "What does that mean?" He goes, "It means that they don't send them to school, they do it at the house." I was like, "Well, that's stupid." And
well, you were a teacher then too, right?
I was a high school teacher, and I just thought that was insane because I was already looking forward to getting my life back and my kids going on the little yellow school bus and having 8 luxurious hours to myself again, or teaching. And yeah, I was not even remotely thinking about it. And then through a series of circumstances, God called us to it, and I think we're in our 20th year. And I'm just so, so grateful for what God has done through the whole thing. But I never would have thought that this would be what God would have had us do. So yeah, it's great. I love it.
Okay, co-op.
Co-op. Co-op is fabulous. I love the way we can share together in a co-op. Families come together. I love the opportunity to encourage the younger moms who are so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed but terrified simultaneously, and help them understand, get their feet wet, teach them what it means to truly walk in grace and not be so obsessive compulsive that they white knuckle through school, but that they realize that there are things that they can, should let go of, and then there are other things that they need to pour into, like their relationships. I came up with something last week that I really like. I'm for rigorous academics as long as we don't sacrifice authentic relationships.
Amen.
And I think sometimes that is that's the pivotal point in our homeschooling. We think we have to have one or the other, and I would advocate that we can have both. And I think in the context of co-op, very often we have the opportunity to learn what that looks like by helping each other. I really think we need the accountability that co-ops offer, but it really, in my opinion, it means we all come together and work. It's not one person carrying the load. It's all of us doing it and working together. And I really like the word cooperative, working together. Some co-ops work where it's a kid dump. You come and you drop off your kids.
Yeah.
I think in the best case scenario, it's not that. I think in the best case scenario, all of the moms are contributing and the students are all being blessed and growing, and everybody wins. That's the best case scenario, I think.
I agree. Author.
Wonderful.
That's a segue.
Terrified.
That's a segue, right?
That's what?
That's a segue into a book too, right?
It is a segue into a book. Author, always wanted to be one. It's harder than I ever could have imagined. It is incredibly terrifying and terrific simultaneously. You feel incredibly vulnerable. You lay it all out there, and then you sometimes feel like you've cued the crickets and no one's responding.
That's not the case with your book, though. Everybody's loving your book.
God has been good. Yeah, it's really been great this time. Getting a bunch of feedback. We seem to have struck a chord. Lots of moms are listening. I'm very excited about this particular book because I feel like it has the potential to be a rallying point for moms in general. Meaning, I really passionately believe that we need each other across the board. Moms need moms, and for too long we've allowed ourselves to be segregated into working moms, not working moms, 1 kid, 28 kids, homeschool, private school, public school. I just think it's insane. I think we all need each other at different points in our lives, different seasons in our lives. I'm in a very transitional season now. I've joked about the fact that I've always preferred addition to subtraction, and now I'm no longer adding kids, I'm subtracting kids, and dadgum, that's hard. It's so much harder than I thought it was going to be, navigating my own emotion, but also navigating the emotion of my other children has been shockingly challenging. So I think, again, that this book, in terms of, it comes down to something that we're all doing no matter what demographic we represent. We're all talking to our children, and the God of the universe wants to speak to all of us. So those are 2 things that we have in common: blonde, brunette, redhead, straight, curly, long, short. We have that in common as moms. And so I think it's exciting to think that there's something we could come together around and support each other in and through. And I think that that's something that this book has the potential to do. So
tell us what made you write the book. Tell us the name of the book. Tell us all about it.
I love the name of the book. How many times do I have to tell you? We've all said that. I mean, I've often joked with my kids, if I just had a nickel, a penny for every time I said it. So one day I was talking to my son, my oldest son, had him by the shoulders. You know that moment? You've got him by the shoulders. And I'm looking at him, and I am firmly but very soberly saying, look at me when I speak to you. And it was as though a shaft of light shone from heaven. Oh, and it was like God was saying, yeah, when are you going to look at me when I talk to you? And I was like,
Did I just hear something?
Yeah, and he scurried off because Mom's having a moment with God, thrilled. And in that moment, I realized, I mean, it was truly an epiphany, and I don't know, it was awesome. I realized that I was holding my son and my other children to a standard that I wasn't living. That I wanted him to look at me when I talked to him, but I wasn't looking to God when God was talking to me. I wanted him to turn down the music. I wanted him to be kind to his brothers and sisters. I wanted him to take out the trash. I wanted him to stop that. And I wasn't doing any of those in terms of my relationship with my Heavenly Father. And it just occurred to me in that moment, could it be that the very things that I was saying to him was God trying to get my attention since I wasn't paying attention to God? And I found it to be true. I sat down at my desk and wrote out about 25 things that I realized that I was saying over and over. And every single one of them was directly appropriate to my relationship with God at that time. I mean, it was absolutely stunning to me.
What an amazing way for your whole walk, your whole life to change. I mean, and of course, that's essentially what you're sharing in the book is how life-changing, and of course, you're sharing some of your funny stories and, the things that have happened over the course of your homeschool life, and I guess actually your whole life, but a lot in your homeschool life.
Sure.
But what an amazing thing to happen. So I guess your kids have seen your walking and your faith change through writing this book.
Yes, I think it's really been good for all of us, and I found also that the things that we say to our kids changes, and I think that's also periods of growth and periods of stagnation and periods of frustration, can be reflected in what we're saying to our children, can be reflected in how we're saying it to our children. Again, now that I'm in this transitionary period of subtracting instead of adding, I'm saying different things, and I think the things that I'm saying differently. And I think that God's overall message to us doesn't change, but I do think that there are periods that what He's saying is different, like just trust and obey me, or I've got this, or have you prayed about it? I'm finding that those are things that as the children have gotten older, I'm hearing those things more significantly and consistently. And it's great. I've asked my kids several times through the course of writing the book, what am I saying? Sort of a self-test, which is terrifying. I call it the dare.
Yeah, that's the dare. So share the dare. Because I think every mom, I did it when I read it.
Good.
It's like, what, go ahead. You tell about the dare. That's a fantastic, I love this. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, I think, first of all, you sit down and you write out what you think you're saying. Just the top 5, 10 things. Don't labor over it, but just the 5 or 10 things that you're saying. And then the dare is dare to go to your children. And I really think you should do it individually. Don't do them as a group.
Right.
Go to them individually.
They'll hang up on you.
I know, right? Every time, every time. So go to them individually, because each of them are going to hear different things and say, I want you to be honest with me. What do you hear me saying over and over? What do you feel like? What's echoing in your head? And they will tell you. Oh, they are so thrilled to tell you. They're so glad that you asked. And I was stunned because some of the things that they said that they were hearing me say, I didn't realize I was saying it that much. I know that I realized that there was some immaturity in some of the things in that, for example, my kids say, remember when we used to go to ice cream like every day? That kind of thing. We've never gone to ice cream every day, but my kids, sometimes remember that we went to ice cream every day. So I know that some of the things that they said were not accurate, but I'm here to tell you that the majority of things that they said to me stopped me in my tracks, the things that they were hearing me say. And it really gave me an opportunity to consider wow, how does that apply to me personally? Is this God speaking to me? And are we willing to take that deep of an introspective look into our hearts and our walk with God and consider? And then closely related, what do we need to change? What are we saying? What are they hearing us say that we don't need to be saying?
I agree.
What adjustments do we need to make? What is it that we want them to hear us saying? And how do we make those changes? I mean, it's a huge opportunity, not just to listen from God, well, what he might be saying, which is incredible, but it's also this massive opportunity to change what our kids are hearing so that it's God honoring and it's affirming and encouraging to them where they are, and it's not tearing them down or discouraging or berating them or nagging them. Yeah.
Yeah. When I asked, I got a little bit of that. I got a little bit of that real. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But they did say they heard me say I love you all the time.
Good.
So that was a good thing that they heard that too. So yeah, that's a very real visual or insight into yourself that we don't necessarily see on our own.
Indeed.
I love that. I love that. So you've talked to a lot of people that are doing this. What's your feedback on the dare? I'm sure everybody loves it as much as I did.
Yeah. The moms are stunned because I think we all think we know what we're saying, right? I mean,
we do. Yeah,
you think you
exactly.
know. And I think I will even go a step further. I think we know what we want to say in terms of, I want to communicate my love to my children. I want to communicate God's love to my children. But then that doesn't necessarily line up with what they say they're hearing.
That's right.
So most of the moms that I've talked to are, like I said earlier, scared to do it. Mm-hmm. So often I talk to moms and they're like, okay, we all promised each other that we would do it, and then they had a regular meeting together, like in a co-op or in a support group, or they were just friends that got together regularly, and they would promise each other, okay, by next week we're going to ask our kids and we'll bring back our list, and as accountability for each other.
That's great.
And they were like, we were so glad we did it that way because I think I would have chickened out. One mom said, I have 4 sons, and after I asked the first one, I never would have asked the other 3 if my girlfriends weren't going to hold me accountable. So that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
I think if you can have somebody that you jump off, hold hands and jump off with, I think that's great. To hold each other accountable to it. And the moms that have done it have just said, I am so glad I've done this, because you're exactly right. I've had an amazing opportunity to make some adjustments, to really hear from God. One mom said, when I first read the subtitle to your book, so it's how many times do I have to tell you what God says, what we say to our kids that God would like to say to us. She said, when I first read the subtitle to your book, I was like, I don't get it. And she said, but then I did the dare, and she said, I was overwhelmed with the insight that asking that question to my kids gave me. She said, I feel like it's revolutionized my parenting. It's revolutionized my relationship with God, with my children. She said, just even asking my kids the question totally changed my relationship with my kids, because it's like, she goes, it didn't occur to me how valued they would feel by me asking them this question. But she said, my kids were like, you want to know what I'm hearing? You care about enough to ask me? She said it was huge in her relationship with her kids.
I wonder if we should take it a step further and ask our spouse this too. Woo.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the double dog dare,
Yeah, there you go. I double dog dare you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I haven't done that. I'll just admit it. I haven't done that, but I will.
Yeah.
Hey, we got 3 right here. We're going to hold each other accountable.
There you go. There you get back to me on that one. Yeah.
So something that I'm pretty intrigued about, besides, and if y'all hear my weather radio going off, I told you I have thunderstorms rolling through here, so I apologize. But something that I'm really intrigued about your book is how it actually crosses, even though there's a lot of homeschooling in it and it talks a lot about your walk and your experience
Sure.
as a homeschooler, it really is a book, a lot of it's parenting. It's just parenting.
Sure.
And I love that. You just came back from a conference that was not a homeschool conference. And now you just, you've been at a lot of the Teach Them Diligently conferences so far this year. So you spoke to it earlier about the similarities and how we're all moms. Can't we come together?
Yeah.
Did you feel that at the other conference? Because that's new for you going to that conference, right?
It was brand new for me to go to that conference. It was an awesome conference. About 5,000 to 6,000 moms came.
What was the name of it again? Leanne told me. What was the name of it?
Hearts at Home.
That's right. That's right.
And this was the national conference, and I'm actually going to do the regional one. I think it's in November. I believe that's right.
Where?
And,
which one? Don't they have several regionals?
Well, this is the one. I went to the one in Normal, Illinois, which is the closest I've ever been, by the way, to Normal. I wanted to get a sign a picture next to the sign, but I couldn't find a sign. So apparently there's not even a sign that I was close to Normal. I'm just going to have to say that I was close to Normal. No one will believe me, but I was actually close to Normal. I was actually in Normal, for what that's worth. Anyway. And the next one is I think it's in Rochester, Minnesota is the next one, which is a beautiful city. I've been there before. But it was glorious to talk about this just to moms in general. We sold out of the book, which was pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's very exciting, yeah.
But to hear the moms talk about, oh, my goodness, one mom said, I'm not even a homeschool mom, and this makes sense. And I was like, well, glory to God.
That was the point.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
But I think, I really do believe, because this was my experience, I made fun of homeschool mothers to their face. I didn't bother to talk about them behind their back. I didn't bother to
That is so you.
Them.
That is so you.
Yeah, just, that's silly. That's dumb. I can't imagine, why would you do that? I really think that more moms would homeschool. I really do believe there would be more of us that homeschool if more of us that homeschool would be more willing to be more real. So I think that if we can break down some of these walls and get down to some things that we're all doing, we're all talking to our children, we're all hopefully seeking a relationship with God and listening to Him, we could get back to just some basic fundamentals and live out loud in authentic relationships with God, with our children, with each other. I think that there might be some more moms willing to step in and think, maybe I could do this. Maybe, and not that that's the point of the book, except to say that I think we're all so preoccupied with maintaining this image, whether you're a working mom and your kids are in daycare and public school and or private school, and you have this image of that you have it all together and, hear me woman, I'm a woman, hear me roar, or you're a stay-at-home mom who has it all together and always looks like $1 million and the kids always match and the house is perfectly clean. I mean, at either end of that spectrum, if we can drop the facade and get on with the relationships, I think we have a much more powerful opportunity to be better wives, to be better mothers, to be better sisters and daughters of the King, minister in our communities, our neighborhoods, our churches, just coming together. And that's what is really exciting about it to me. I love it when people, I travel to go to these different conferences, and I'll get on a plane and sit next to somebody, and the whole thing, so where are you going, what are you doing, blah, 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 blah. And so you sit next to the businessman who's going to some conference and wherever you're headed, and then the question comes around, right? And so, what do you do, and where are you going? And, I get about 4 steps into that conversation, and they look at me and they go, funny, didn't see that coming.
I can believe that. I believe that 100%. But you know what? That's what we're all trying to do, is we're all trying to change the image of homeschooling moms, and you're doing that.
Sure. Well, by the grace of God, but they're like, but you seem so sane. Truly, that is the image in the facade. You know, I seem reasonable.
Normal.
Normal. Hey, right. I was close to normal once. Once upon a time. 2015 for a short weekend.
That's right.
So I think, again, and just motherhood in general, I think, you know, I have, like we all do, mothers in the neighborhood. At the end of the day, we all need each other. I need to be praying for my friends whose kids, I've got a friend whose kid is a quarterback on a public school team and facing some real challenges. He was a homeschool kid for years and years and years, and now he's in public school, and they're facing some real issues. And you know what? I need to be praying for them. I need to be praying for him. He's a great kid. I need to be praying for the decisions that they're facing. I need to be praying for his spiritual walk. I've got friends whose kids are in private school, and single moms that are working to make ends meet, to have ends wave at each other. You know, we just need each other.
Yeah.
And again, I think when we can come back together around the fact that we love our kids, we're trying to disciple our kids, encourage our kids, point our kids to God, and we're trying to have this ongoing, growing relationship with Him simultaneously, I just think it's a glorious thing to come around and stop talking about what we don't have in common and talk about what we've got in common and go from there.
I'm going to give a shameless plug for Hip Homeschool Moms community right there, because that's exactly what we do. That's
exactly.
We're always talking about, let's not focus on the things that divide us. Let's focus on the things that unite us and bond us together. And
Truly.
I believe that is so important, and that's why I think not just our group, but people in general, when they sense that about you, when they sense that you are open and willing to be in an environment, our group is secular. We have some secular folks in there. We have Christians in there. I'm Messianic. You know, we have Jewish people in there. We have a little bit of everything in there.
Right.
And I think that's good for all of us to be together in this environment and to show respect for each other. And it's crazy because that's what they say. You know, I love this group because y'all allow differences, but yet you respect each other. And that's the key. What you're talking about right now is respecting each other's decisions, allowing each other to be individuals.
Exactly. I've got to trust, Trish, that you are pursuing a holy, mighty God, if you know, in a Christian circumstance, that you're seeking to do the best for your marriage and for your kids. I've got to trust that enough. And you know what, frankly, we need to have each other's back in that way.
That's right.
And I think that's what we have the opportunity to do. And even, you know, even in homeschooling, good grief, the judgment that we can come down on, you know, they do textbooks, or they do co-ops, or they do unit studies, or they do. Stop it. You know, I mean, let's trust that we're all doing the very best for our family. Let's trust that we are seeking to serve our families and bless our families in whatever we're saying and doing, and stop knitting each other, because when we do that, we're working for the enemy. And we've got to, you know, I think if we could just get a visual for how he picks us off and how we work for him when we behave that way, maybe some of us would stop it, you know, because I don't want to work for him.
That's a great point. That is a fantastic point. Say that again.
I think if we could, every time we want to criticize somebody else or judge somebody else or make fun of or exclude somebody based on, good grief, what they wear, their curriculum, where they attend church, if they attend church, we're working for the enemy. That is not glorifying to God.
We're throwing darts for him.
We are. We're on the opposing team. And if we could just keep that in mind, that is not glorifying to him, that is not what he would have us to do or how he would have us behave, it is not good for our testimony, then maybe we could grow up a little bit. Maybe we could stop it, hush, and not say anything else.
That's so important. Such a great message. If nobody hears anything else, I hope they heard that from this conversation, because I think that's really the whole point. Wendy, do you see that? I don't see you personally, but I see a picture of you, Wendy.
I do too.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. How are you?
Okay, well, I finally got in. I don't know what the problem was. I'm terribly sorry about that.
Well, we can't see you. All we see is your picture, but that's okay. She can now participate, and I won't have to, but we're going to have to keep it off your picture because it just keeps going to black, so if that's okay. Yeah. So you had some questions too, so I'll let you pick up and ask a few questions.
I did. I was reading back through the book, and I have to say, I really loved chapter 61
Okay.
because I have two children who the title of that chapter is It's Your Choice. And I
Oh.
loved it because I have two children, one in particular that if you say, don't touch that stove, it's really hot, guess what she's
Mhm.
going to do? She's going to
Yep.
touch that stove just to see if it's really hot.
Yep.
And so I was wondering if you have any advice for the parents of children who insist on learning the hard way. You know,
Right.
it's hard for us moms to let our kids do that.
Yeah, it's painful to have our kid, even if you know that your kid is, I call it experientially based learning.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it makes it sound more, like a diagnosis of some kind.
There you go.
If I could give it some letters, we could dress it up even further.
That's right. Let's find some.
Yeah, it could be E, let's see, EL, experiential learners. They're
There you go.
ELers. Um, so my
L is a
oldest
name
was
for a
that
guy.
way, and he just seemed exactly, if the paint was wet, don't touch that. He's just going to walk over, look at me, and put his hand on the wall. Um, and maybe when they're little, it might be, oh my goodness,
Cute.
that's kind of funny, and you're trying to control laughing, but it doesn't last funny for long.
No.
And I can remember there came a point where I was just aggravated, and frankly, I took it personally because I felt like it meant I was a bad parent. And then I came to realize that it really wasn't. It really wasn't so much a commentary on my parenting as it was on his wiring. So how could I honor how he was wired in terms of being an experiential learner, but how could I direct it in such a way that he wasn't going to harm himself or others, because that's what he did.
And burning the house
And
down.
exactly, burning the house
Right.
down would be a bad way to learn that flames are not our friends. So the thing that I strived to communicate to Charles early on was that this was true. I think so often if we can communicate to our kids truth and not tiptoe around it, and actually say to them, this is what I see. I see that it's difficult for you to take my word for things. You seem to have to test the lines for yourself. And I get that. But what I need you to understand is there are consequences for that. I'm trying to save you from those consequences. Clearly, you're willing to bet those consequences. So what I want you to know is I'm not going to back off on the consequences because I know you understand those. But I want to make sure that you know that while I'm delving out the consequences, because that's my job, because I love you enough to disciple and discipline you, I'm going to stand by you. And when you choose against, I'm still going to stand by you. I'm still going to love you. You can't change that. I think that's very powerful for a child who learns that way. I'll give an example. When Charles was in high school, I'll try to make this brief. He was determined to go to a homeschool prom. Now, let me just say, if there have ever been two words that should not be able to coexist, it would be those two. I'm not a big fan of prom. I would have a hard time to say anything positive can come out of prom. And I would get on that soapbox, but it's probably not worth the time that it would take to climb up there. So I'll just suffice it to say that he really wanted to go, and I really was like, I just don't see anything positive coming out of this. But he pushed and he pushed and he pushed, and I'd known this whole experiential part of him. So we came to a compromise, a meeting of the minds. Davis and I sat down with him. We knew the girl he wanted to take, and so we set parameters. We would drive. We would actually be there. We would go, and we would be a part of the whole thing. And so he was, okay, that sounds great. And, the compromise was fine with him. He got to go. And we went, and we had laid out for him everything that we felt like was negative and was a risk, and call it what you will. We were concerned about this, and this. And so we laid out our case. And so then we went. So he had to pay for everything in order to go to prom. And we went, we drove them, and we got there, and we stayed there. And I'm here to tell you that the whole time I was like, I cannot believe that we approved this. We should have said no. We never should have come. I cannot believe that we're anywhere close to this building. Did you see this? Did you see this? This is just what we thought it would be. I was just not in a pretty place. We came back to pick him and said, young lady, up. And he comes to us, and he said, do I have your permission to talk to the people who are in charge of this?
Oh, boy.
Deep breath. And Davis says, about, and he said, let's just say that you were more right than I wish you were. Aww. Do I have your permission to talk to the people who are in charge of this? And Davis said, as long as you do so with respect and calmness. You may not be disrespectful. You may speak to them respectfully and calmly. And he said, yes, sir, I'll meet you at the van.
Oh, wow.
Well, Davis and I went out to the van. Everybody left except him. He came to the van with this young lady. Of course, it's a 45-minute drive home. We're not talking about it on the way home. It was one of the most quiet rides we've ever had.
And uncomfortable, I imagine.
And yeah, it was a little intense because they had two other couple friends that were with them. And I mean, it was just about absolute silence in the van.
Wow.
We get to the location where we dropped everybody off and everything. And the door, he gets back in the car, closes the door, and he said, okay, you were right. I was wrong. Everything that you said was right. And I turned around to him and I said, could I get that on recording? Would you be willing to record that so that on the next blustery day I could just push replay and hear you say I was right?
Or the next time challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be great to be able to have that forever, somewhere I could replay it. But I think the point was that we came to an understanding. We laid out our case. We had a conversation, a hard conversation. And at the point at which we could have had real rebellion and anger and resentment on his part, I knew that he was wired this way. So we set up parameters. We walked with him through it. And I think as a result of the conversation and the parameters and the discussions that we had, at the end of the day, when it proved accurate, we had laid a foundation in a safe place wherein he could say, you were right. I wasted my money. I wasted my time. You were right. And I think as parents sometimes we're afraid to walk through, going to prom is not an eternal issue. It's just not. So there are things that we can walk with them through, perhaps knowing what the outcome will be, but right there with them, walking through it with them. And I think that's so powerful ultimately, that we're there with them, that we allowed them, their experiential self, to do something, and then we can have the debrief conversation afterwards. I think some of us are so terrified of whatever it is, but there are a million different things that they might have to experience that are not life-threatening, that are not of eternal consequence, that are not morally compromising, that I think can undergird and build our conversation. And I think that's what this situation did. So give them choices, be consistent with the consequences there too, but realize that there might be some you have to walk through with them in order to build that understanding in that relationship. Now he's married, living in Arizona, and the conversations we have now, I have to say, I think that that's part of the foundation of the phone calls we have and the questions that he asks us. He really knows we're there with him. He knows that we're not going to interfere, we're not going to make him, but he knows we're going to walk with him. So,
did he marry the girl he took to the prom?
No, he did not.
I was just curious. That would have been a fun, end of that story, huh?
I know it would have been, but no, he did not.
Okay, that's okay. We'll love her anyway, right?
That's right, we do.
I have a question. Can I jump in, Wendy? I guess she said yes. She's not there. She's got me muted. Yeah, I hear you now.
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
How did you pick the stories, Rachel? You have so many stories that you could, I mean, just like that one. How did that one not make it to the book? So how did you pick the stories that you added to the book?
That's funny because for each chapter of the book, I would list out all the stories I could think of that would fit that one. And then it was just picking and choosing because, I have interviews like this one and when I speak at conferences and talk about the book or just moms one-on-one, I'm always pulling for a new story because we've all got stories. I mean, it'd be fun. This is another activity. And it'd be fun for, as you're reading it, to write your own story beside each one of the chapters of a time that's happened in your life as a mom.
You need a journal to go along with it.
Exactly. You need a journal to go along with it. I'll tell my marketing team. Because the other thing that I left out of the book that I do at conferences is I go back and weave in biblical stories that undergird each one of these. Right. Because each one of these you can see in Scripture, and that's really fun to look at. So these are not just modern things that are said. I think sometimes we think that what we say today is not what they said thousands of years ago, but I would say that even thousands of years ago, mothers were saying whatever was current and the equivalent of dude to their kids on occasion. I don't know what it was.
I saw that chapter. I haven't read that chapter yet, but I saw there's a chapter named Dude.
Oh, I love that one. I love that one. I think I would like to write a book entitled The Dude Moments with Jesus and the Disciples. I think there were lots of times when Jesus was looking at them going, dude, seriously? Really? Really? The best you got?
Oh, gosh.
But because I just think he was making it real. So yeah, that's a fun chapter too. So I think these are all things across the centuries that we've said, just not always in Old English.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Wendy, did you have any more you wanted to ask?
I did. One other thing I wanted to ask is we have so many moms who feel like their kids are ultimately going to succeed or fail because of everything that we personally do in our homeschools. And what advice would you have for those moms? This is something that we have asked a lot, and it's a very serious question. These moms really are afraid that the fate of their children rests on their shoulders alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they're doing it right, that
right.
Sure.
That right word. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that is an example of the enemy working diligently to take us captive and make us fearful. At the end of the day, we have a choice. We can fear man or we can fear God. And I think it's really easy to fall into the pit of thinking that it's all on my shoulders and I'm messing them up forever. And really, I mean, obviously, if you're a homeschooling mom, the enemy wants to convince you that it's all on your shoulders, that you can't, that you're unqualified, you're messing your kids up, they're going to have to be in a lifetime of therapy on some counselor's couch to make up for all the bad things you've done. No, it's not about being perfect. This journey is not about having it all together. It's not about being ridiculously patient or organized. It's not about figuring it out. I used to believe that. When I first started homeschooling, I thought the game was about figuring it out, and then you figured it out, and you pushed some coast button and just coasted the rest of the journey of homeschooling. That's what I thought, and that was my goal. I thought that the game is I figure out the curriculum, the schedule, what I'm going to do for phonics, what I'm going to do for spelling, what I'm going to do for math, and then that's just what we do. And that's not it. What it's about is prayerfully persevering and pursuing God. That's what it's about. And that means that what I did last year is probably not what I'm going to do next year. And what worked with kid one is absolutely not going to work with anybody else. And the schedule that I thought was great is going to be trashed by Tuesday. And the lesson plans that I made on Sunday night won't work by Wednesday. I mean, but it means that we keep on keeping on even when all those things happen. Not because we're not putting our trust in our lesson plan book or our curriculum or our schedule. We're putting our trust in God. And we're trusting that He's going to do what only He can do, and that is go before us, walk with us, and clean up behind us. I'm so grateful that He's the great Redeemer. All of my mistakes that I've made, if I was perfect, if I was some super mom, my kids don't need Jesus.
That's right.
The reality is my kids know that they need a great redeemer because I'm their mom. If I was
You're
perfect,
really close to normal. We know
right,
this.
right, getting back to being close to normal, right. Um, if I had it all together, why would I introduce them to Jesus?
That's right.
I am so desperate to introduce my children to Jesus because I know, because of all the mistakes I know that I've made, that they need Him. They need His perfection. They need Him to come and heal and redeem and bless in all the ways that I haven't. If you're, I know there are times that I feel like, I didn't read to that kid today, or we didn't do school last month, or whatever, but I can know that God doesn't waste anything. And I know that it's not on my back. Now, does that mean that I just need to, sleep in and eat Pop-Tarts in bed and just do whatever? No, over and over, and I love the Apostle Paul. He wrote most of the New Testament, but one of his favorite phrases is to be diligent. So, even as we're pursuing God, to do that diligently, continue to pursue God, continue to trust God, continue to push, which for me, on the weeks that we don't read, on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, that means picking up the book on Thursday and Friday. The curriculum that I uncover after a month of Sundays and go, oh yeah, we're supposed to be doing that. It means we pick it up and blow it off and, blow the dust off the cover and do it again. Maybe I don't know, when it's week 23 in your homeschool year and you're on like lesson 4 in your math book, it means you don't.
History.
Yeah, or history or whatever.
Mine is week 6 of history. I get this. You're talking to me.
Yeah, that you don't just throw up your hands, but that you persevere. I mean, because that is such a huge life lesson for our children. Confession time. Like we haven't done that already. We could just do a whole hour on confession.
Exactly.
So we started one of my most favorite books. So I've read this book to my children, to all 7. I've probably read it through probably 3 or 4 times. And this year was the year to read it to the youngest boys, Joseph and Ben. Okay, Otto of the Silver Hand, one of my all-time favorite books. If you've not read it to your children, it is so worth it. You will want to shoot me when you read the first chapter because you'll read the first chapter and go, I have no idea what that said. Hang with it. The first chapter is confusing and overwhelming. Just pursue on to chapter 2. It's really worth it. So, all that to say, we started that book in the fall. I have 2 chapters to read, and I still have not gotten them read. And I have finished about 4 books in between, and it sits on my desk. And every week I do my lesson plans, and I'm like, I need to finish that this week. And I'm like, we'll take it to Tennessee, right? Okay, we're at Teach Them Diligent. We'll take it to Tennessee. I'll read it on the car to Tennessee. No, I won't. Because on the car to Tennessee, we're listening to Odyssey CDs. And so I could that's the kind of thing that keeps me awake at night. In the middle of the night, I have this, we didn't finish Otto of the Silver Hand. It's that kind of stuff that the enemy just plays and plays and plays. And you know what? I'm a good mom if I don't ever finish Otto of the Silver Hand. I'm still a good mom, and my kids are not completely messed up. But to the glory of God, when I pick it up and finish it, it shows my kids that you finish what you start, and you don't beat yourself up in between, because they apply that perseverance and that pursuit of God and ultimately of holy living. They apply that to relationships, that you persevere in relationships. And you don't quit on relationships like you don't quit on a book. You don't quit on a curriculum. You keep going when it's hard and when you neglect it for a while or whatever. So, yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about serving a great Redeemer. It's about parenting with open hands. It's about trusting that He's got it. And to those moms that think they don't, that they've got to get it all, first of all, I'd say breathe. Keep breathing. Passing out's not going to help anybody. And then go back and map through Scripture. God's got it. If there's one thing I could say is a mom who's graduated 3. I've got 3 graduated. By God's grace, 3 are graduated. You know what I know at the end of the day? God's got it. It's not about me. It's about God and glorifying God. So longer.
You mentioned your kids in college, so I have to ask. You know, we had the story about Anderson and his 11th hour change
Yes.
and him going to art school.
Yeah.
And that's this year. This is his first year, right?
Yeah, this is his first full year, and it's
So you
going
go tell us
great.
how it's going.
It's
It's almost
going
a
great.
year. So is he
Yeah.
still committed to it? Is this
Oh
his
yeah,
mind?
he is.
His brain?
He is
Yeah, okay.
incredibly talented. He is. It's very exciting to see what God is doing and how he's growing. He had to do actually a comic book. Okay, he got graded on a comic book. You know, I did something wrong in college. So
I
anyway,
love
he did
it.
that. I have a signed copy, so you know
There you
someday
go.
when he's famous, I'll be able to auction it or whatever. He says I can't do that. I have to keep it.
So
Um,
what was this comic book about?
it was a cowboy comic book. I guess he's throwing back to his Texas roots. You know, I'm a
There you go.
Texas girl, so he was making mom happy by doing something with cowboys. So yeah,
How
it's very.
fun.
So yeah, he's doing great. God has been very good.
No, that's good because I was curious about it. You know, we talked about it and all the changes that inspired me when you were talking about how, you know, at the last second in high school, how he changed everything you had planned, everything you had already had in place was sort of tossed into the air and you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
That really, you know, that speaks to me because I've got a high schooler and it's a scary proposition. It gets more real. There's something about high school where it just gets more real, and you
Yes.
feel more pressure, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that story spoke to me. So I enjoyed hearing about. I wanted to check on him, you know. I mean, you
Yeah.
told us all about him last time, so we had
Yeah.
to check on him, right?
He's doing good.
Very good, very good. Wendy, I know you had one more question on the list. Did you want to ask it, or have you already asked it?
Um, yeah, I
Chapter.
know we just have a few minutes left, um, but yeah, I did.
We
Chapter
can go
60 is
late.
about being grateful.
Hmm.
We can
Okay.
go a little bit late since we started late.
Yeah, chapter
You know.
60 is about be grateful, you've got it made. And I know that my kids don't think they have it made. They
Right.
don't really have anything to compare to. What do you do? What do you do to help your kids realize what they really do have to be grateful
Hmm.
for?
That's a great question, Wendy. And I think that's one of the things on the list that probably takes the most intentionality on our part is I think it's important for us to embrace circumstances wherein our kids can see how blessed they are. We've had the opportunity to travel internationally with our kids, and that has been a huge opportunity for them to see, you know, we really do live, I think in the United States, we all live in the top 1% of the world. And whether it's my oldest two boys went on 2 mission trips to the Dominican with Davis. We've all traveled together to Kenya and to Hungary. My daughter and I got to go to China together, and we'll be going with another daughter this summer. She and I will be going to Kenya. I think it's powerful, and you don't have to go across the pond. I mean, we've ministered here locally in town also, but again, I think this takes a little bit more intentionality than many of the things. It's so well worth it, and that is making sure that we take advantage of opportunities to see how blessed we are, and with a lot of grace and a lot of being the hands and feet of Christ. When Charles went off to school at King's, and I may have shared this story before, but I think it's worth repeating. It makes the point that you're asking about. It's not just the blessings of our homes, meaning the material things that our kids haven't made, because our kids haven't made. They have a warm bed at night. They have clothes. They have parents that love them, are pouring into them. They have books at their fingertips. They have computers. And so there's so many things that they have. But I also think our kids probably don't realize the richness of their childhood in the context of a homeschooling family. So I started a minute ago. My son, when he went to King's College in New York, Charles went, and he was sitting at a table with a bunch of other fellow students one night. I think it's free pizza night somewhere in the city. So a bunch of them were sitting around and just exchanging stories from home, like you do when you get together with other people. And Charles said, so one night, it was his turn. One night we were all sitting around after dinner, and this girl across the table said, whoa, 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 whoa. What did you just say? And he said, I have said like nothing. And she said, no, 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 no. Repeat what you just said. And he said, one night we were all sitting around after dinner. And she said, stop. You make it sound like sitting around after dinner is a common thing at your house. How often do y'all do that? And he said, well, most nights we sit around and have dinner. She goes, no one does that. And he said, we do that. And she said, next thing you're going to say is you had breakfast and lunch together. And he said, well, actually we did. And she said, nobody does that. Nobody has breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. What do you mean? And he said, no, what do you mean? And she said, if my family eats together on Easter and Christmas, that's 2 times more than they did last year.
Oh,
and
wow.
He said, in that moment, he goes, I didn't even finish my story. He said, it never occurred to me that there were families who didn't do what we did. It didn't occur to me that there were families who didn't talk together or discuss books that they were reading together or laugh together or watch movies or have almost every Friday night at our house we have Friday night pizza. Sometimes we order it, sometimes we make it. We're trying a new crust recipe this week. We're doing a new topping. We draw for the movie, we vote on the movie, we download the movie, we borrow the movie, whatever. But Friday night pizza night, that's pretty much a staple here. And these things that we're doing at home, our kids have got it made. It's so rich. We're doing read-alouds. We're cooking together. I'm here to tell you, just taking our kids to the grocery store is a gift. We're raising a whole generation that hasn't seen the inside of a grocery store, doesn't know how to weigh a cantaloupe, doesn't know how to compare prices, because the kids are relegated to daycare so mommy can do it by herself. And I get needing to be by yourself, but there's so much value in doing those things together. We have a generation that doesn't know what it means to plant a seed and grow a plant or cook a new recipe or take a walk or walk the dog. So, I mean, all of these things are things that our kids, it's so normalized for them. They don't understand. They got it made. And a lot of these other families, they don't have that. And as we teach them about that, we have an opportunity to teach them what it means to be gracious and what it means to guard so intentionally what they've been given, because they've been given a great thing. They've been given this trust of this firm foundation based on the truth of God and a lot of good cases of good marriage and sibling relationships. And then they have an opportunity to bless others based on how they've been blessed. So I hope that gets to what you were asking, Wendy. I think it's one of the most intentional things that we have to do, but I think it's a great opportunity for us.
Yes, that does. That does. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that we have. Most of us, a lot of us here, do have the chances to take our kids on mission trips. And if not, then I'm thinking there are a lot of good books that we can read with our kids, videos that we can watch together, those sorts of things too, even if we don't have the chance to travel outside the country and actually see in person what's going on in other countries.
Yes, Wendy, that's an excellent point. And I love those YWAM books for just that reason. Because you can look Sundar Singh is one of my favorites. I mean, he was kicked out of his home at a very young age. I don't remember how young he was, for embracing Christ. And you read the stories of those missionaries, and it is a great opportunity to show your kids, look at how other people live, look at the choices they made, and how important that is.
Right. And just looking at the headlines today with some of the things that are happening around the world, if you use, what's happening to Israel and to Christians, that are over there in the East. I mean, it's some crazy stuff going on right now. So you can use what's happening in the world as part of that discussion about how blessed we are.
Indeed.
We talk about it. Even when we pray, we talk about the freedom to pray, the freedom to worship the way we want. I mean, we have so many blessings here that we don't realize. So I agree.
Yeah.
So that's something that maybe Davis can pull together. Is a lot of us out here don't have the opportunity for mission trips. Maybe there's an opportunity there for homeschool mission trips. What do
Yes,
you
there
think about
actually are a
that?
couple of groups that actually do those, and I'll try to look up those organizations and get that to you because we know of a couple that actually do organize those for homeschool families, and it's a great opportunity.
Maybe somebody could put it on your blog. Speaking of
Yeah,
blogs, she's got a new
I'll make it.
blog. You got a new blog,
Yeah, we
right?
updated it. I think it looks great. Have you gotten to go over and look at it?
Yes, yes. So
So
you're now
yeah,
RachelCarman.com. You can see the spelling of her name right there on the screen.
yes,
So
yes,
yeah, be sure to check out her blog. She's got some great stuff going up. I've been watching. I'm on your newsletter, of course. So
yay.
I've been getting it all week. So you're doing the Ephesians study right now, right?
We are, which is it's been a great, great study. I'm so blessed to do that whole study. There are PDF downloads of the scripture, and there's questions and opportunities to go as deep as you want to in that study.
Yeah, so we've been watching it. So yeah, y'all check out her blog. And of course the book. And the book is
How many times do I have to tell you? And it
there you
looks
go.
like this.
It's a fantastic cover. I meant to tell you that. I did not get the opportunity to buy one at Teach Them Diligently because they were selling out so quick and I was
Yeah,
like,
they were
I'll
sold
get it.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic cover. I love it.
Thank you. I love how colorful it is.
I know. I know. Wendy, did we cover all your questions?
Yes, I think so.
Yay! And sorry you were late. We had technical difficulties. That's another reason why we were sliding in sideways on this one. Sorry we were
Yes,
running
I
a
am
few minutes
so
late.
sorry about that.
It's not your fault. Give me a break. So, and Leanne, did you have any questions that you want to sneak in?
No, I think I'm good.
Our quiet one. Well, Rachel, we have so enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and giving us some time and sharing your wisdom and your humor. It's always so much fun talking to you.
Oh, it's always so much fun to be with you. Thanks so much for having me again, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Let's do it. Yeah, we're going to be we have the Homeschool Teacher Appreciation coming up
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks. That's something that Apologia is really spearheading, and Davis is really near and dear to his heart. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to have you and Davis on that night or that
That's the
day.
plan. I think that's April 23rd. So I
It is.
just put that on my calendar today. So yeah, that's really
Yeah.
exciting.
So we'll be seeing you then, and then we've got Davis coming up. We'll be talking to Davis about something. So yeah, we're going to be talking to Apology a lot like in the next 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks, something like that.
Well, like
So,
I've always said, I think we're always better when we can work together. I'm all for cross-pollination. If it's all for the glory of God, that's what really matters.
amen. Well, thank you for being here, and we will see everybody in a week or two at the
Sounds
next conference, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks again. Good night,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.